Okay, hello everybody. Whether you're watching on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, this is my very first video and I am very nervous. So, I have been mulling over the idea of doing a little video series for a while now, for two reasons. One, after my book, Owning It, Your Bullshit Free Guide to Living with Anxiety, such a mouthful, after that came out, I have been inundated with messages from people to tell me that it's been helpful, which has been amazing, and like what a good feeling to know that I've helped anybody in some small ways. Just I never expected that. But I've been messaged from a lot of people asking for more specific advice and tips, and it's hard to get back to everyone all the time. I try my best. I sound like I'm a fucking celebrity getting fan mail. I'm not, but when I write back to someone about anxiety, I don't just want to say, oh, you'll be fine. I want to be able to give them practical, meaningful help that relates to what they have described. But it's not always easy to do because it's not all I do. I don't just talk about it and write about it all day long. It's one aspect of my experience and it's something I've written about, obviously. But I suppose if I spend all my time thinking about it and talking about it and writing about it and focusing on everyone else's anxiety, I start to really suffer myself. And I think it's very easy for me to forget that just because I've written a book about anxiety does not mean I'm fine or I'm never going to feel it again. And that's the whole point of the book, was to not think of it as something that we cure, but something that we own and accept as part of us. So I wanted to be able to widely talk about things that may or may not help and things that are helping me now as I sort of go through it in real time, not and outside of the book. And B, I'm having a hard time at the moment, and I suppose it feels, I usually just jump to Instagram stories to dump my thoughts and feelings on the world, but however many seconds that gives me is never enough. And I think maybe this will be targeted more towards people who want to hear about what it feels like to have anxiety and feelings of panic and fear of failure and self-doubt and all that fucking shit that goes with it. So it's sort of therapy for me as well, because therapy is so expensive. I cannot get over the price of it these days. So that is where I am at, and hopefully it will be of interest or of use to some people. And if anything, it's just a nice little exercise for me in getting things off my chest and normalizing the anxiety that I feel. So I guess I should start with where I'm at right now. So if you've read my book or any of the things I've written about my experience of anxiety, I had it really, really bad. Not just, oh, I feel anxious today, but really physical. I wasn't able to work. I was very sick. Really physical symptoms. It built up and up and up and up, and I just couldn't function. And it was really hard, and how I got through it in enormous detail is chronicled in the book Owning It. But like I've said already, I figured out an awful lot, and I learned to manage it with the help of CBT and just understanding what anxiety is and why we feel it, and also medication played a role for me as well when it was particularly acute. But I still feel it from time to time, and I think I need to be okay with that as well. I suppose I feel a certain kind of pressure that because I've written a book about it, I'm supposed to be some kind of authority on anxiety, and I'm not, and I have never claimed to be, a psychologist or a healthcare professional. I've just offered my experience in my language, but the pressure, that pressure is coming from me, nobody else. So therefore, when I feel anxiety again, since the book has come out, I'm like, oh fuck, you're not supposed to be feeling this way. You're supposed to be the person helping other people and telling other people how to deal with it, and that's unnecessary pressure, and it just leads me to feeling more anxious, which is completely counterproductive. So yeah, so where I'm at right now is I've been doing really well, really, really good, dealing with fear and anxiety on a very normal basis in terms of like if something is coming up and I feel fearful, like I have to give a talk or go on TV, like that's the kind of anxiety that is very normal and understanding, and you kind of get through it, you know what to do, and you know you're going to feel like total shit, but you know it's going to pass. So that's probably the most of the anxiety that I'm feeling these days. In terms of those really like acute physical symptoms, because for me it's always been really physical. It's been never just about like an anxious thought that just goes in my head. Um, so that's been one thing, but also what I didn't expect and what kind of took me by surprise was the power of um, what's the word, fear conditioning, which is something I'm writing about a bit at the moment, which is how we can condition ourselves to have these fearful associations with things, which you'll probably be familiar with in some way yourself. So for me, it's I feel kind of stupid even trying to explain it. It's just I feel like it sounds ridiculous, and I would never say this to someone else, but I'm obviously so hard on myself. But when I was really really bad back in 2014, I had a lot of, well, pretty much every day was awful. So I have a lot of memories from that time that were so severe that if I think about them too much these days, it kind of brings the anxiety back. And it's not just a case of saying, "Oh, that was shit, that was awful." I actually feel it horribly. Usually, I'm able to sort of rationalize and separate myself then from now and realize how far I've come and how much I've achieved in terms of getting stronger. But just this week, I had a really, really, really bad relapse, which kind of knocked the feathers out of me. Um, I went down to Dingle, to where my parents live, for a break. Well, no, not really a break actually. I went down there for a week to write my second book, which is about the fear of failure. And ironically, I have been riddled with the fear of failure in trying to write it, which I suppose in itself gives me some material. But I went down there to spend some time with my parents and to just get away from the world and write. And um, I thought it would be a really good place to do it. But the last time I was down there on my own, without Barry, my fiance, or without my brother, or without friends, and when you're down in the country for like a fun weekend, the last time I was there, just me on my own, was in 2014 when I was really, really bad. And I remember it was my birthday weekend, and my parents took me down because Barry was away and I was going to be on my own, and I couldn't be on my own at the time. I was really, really fragile and vulnerable. So they took me away, and it was just like the worst weekend of my life. I didn't want to be here. Like, I just felt so bad. I was so scared of the anxiety. I had no idea what was going on. I did not understand what anxiety was, or why I was feeling it, or how it was affecting me, or how to get out of the situation. I felt helpless, and I couldn't sleep. And my dad actually had to sleep in a bed and let me sleep with my mom, because I was like, that's how bad I was in my mid-20s. Had to sleep with my mommy. I was just crying all the time. My mom had to come and like drag me out of the shower one day because I was just sitting on the floor crying because I was just so upset that I had fallen apart, and I couldn't. I thought I could just snap out of it, and I couldn't. So just sort of spiraled, and that was probably the lowest point for me. And then I went home to Dublin again and dealt with everything up there. But because I had such a short time in Dingle, I sort of developed an association where, because I was in this place which was neutral but having a bad feeling, I then associated the place with the bad feeling, which is so common. And even though you think you can just tell yourself to not feel that way or to not think that way, it's really, really hard. Much, much easier said than done. So I was worried then after that about going back down to Dingle, which is a shame because, I mean, I love it there so much. I'm getting married there next year. It's where my parents live now. I have so many great memories from there, but that one bad memory was so much more powerful than any positive memory that I was wary about going back down there. And so I went back down the following New Year's, and there was a whole gang of us there, and I found it so difficult. I was still, like, I mean, I was still in bits. I was barely getting through one day to the next, and I was surviving on Valium at the time because that's all I could do. And I had very much the negative association of being there. And I wanted to work through it, and I thought I was working through it, so I went down again and again. Obviously my parents live there now, so I've been down countless times. Went down for lovely weekends with Barry, went down with some of my girlfriends and had really good times, and was like, okay, that association is gone. But then, so it took me completely by surprise when I went down this time and felt like really, really frightened again. So I went down, and I guess because I was by myself and I was there to work, and I wasn't there for like a fun weekend where I was going out, and the weather was bleak, and like in Kerry, as beautiful as it is, if it's kind of bleak there, it's just like not good for your mental health. So I think even though I was surrounded by comforts and my parents had made such an effort and made so much lovely food and all the comforts in the world, it was as close as I was going to get to what it was like that time that I was there when I was really bad. So I was sort of, without realizing it, I was kind of thinking about that time that I was in the shower, or that time that I was sitting on the couch in Kerry, in Dingle, wondering what I'm going to do. And the memories alone were enough to bring it back for me. And I started to feel this horrible tightness in my chest and like find it really hard to breathe. And it wasn't a panic attack like an isolated 5 minute thing and then you're fine. It was just starting building slowly and slowly. And what made it worse and what compounded the anxiety was that I felt so bad about telling my parents, like, listen, I'm sorry that I've come down here and you've made such an effort and it's great, but I can't be here. I was so ashamed to come to that realization that it was memories coming back for me. It felt like a failure because I put myself under this pressure to have everything figured out. And I didn't want to feel that way, and I got fright. I was scared, and I was like, fuck, like, is this coming back at me? And I've, so much time has passed, and I've done so well, and I just thought I had thought that was behind me. I thought I was smarter than anxiety, and I'm not. And I'm still susceptible to it, and I'm the very person who would tell someone else that's okay. And anyway, I had a decision to make. I either was going to stay and try and ride it out, or come home back to where I live now, which is I don't have an association with because I moved in here after my really hard time. So long story short, I felt like coming home would be sort of letting anxiety win and would be me giving in. But at the same time, I felt that if I stayed in that situation and I was feeling kind of worse and worse, it might spiral and snowball and be harder to come back from. So I came home, and obviously I'm surrounded with supportive friends and Barry and my family who are like, look, you got to do what you've got to do. But it really took me aback, and I thought coming home would make me feel a lot better. But I think for me, because anxiety is so physical, I'm touching my chest now because I feel it so much. It always takes a few days to settle down and come back to normal, even though you might realize exactly, like, I understand what's happened, I understand why it happened, I can psychoanalyze myself till the cows come home. But even though I know all that, it still takes time to kind of settle down. And the only way I can ever describe how I'm feeling now is it's like I had these anxiety goggles on, and everything I think and feel I'm seeing through the eyes of anxiety. So things that wouldn't have knocked a feather out of me last week when I was fine, suddenly now I'm like, oh, I feel fear about all these things. So namely, the fear I have is that this feeling won't go away. And I know that it will, like, because it always does, and I always come back to normal. But that's my little challenge for now, is to work on these negative associations, because really all that I'm anxious about at the moment is the fact that I feel anxious, and the only reason I'm feeling anxious is based on memories from a long time ago, which, yes, were very hard to deal with, but I am not in that place now. So I want to figure out a strategy that will help me address these negative associations so that they no longer have this effect on me and this power over me. Haven't quite figured out yet how I'm going to do that. I don't have all the answers, even though I wrote a book. I really do not always know what to do. So I will keep you posted, and maybe that's something you've experienced. I'd love to know if it is, because you definitely feel like you're on your own sometimes with this, and like I said, like, I did feel kind of crazy to say that I was in the lap of luxury with my family, and that gave me panicky feelings. So yeah, I should probably stop now because I've gone over 15 minutes of talking shite. So if you want to message me, please do below, comment, and I'll keep you posted as my strategy presents itself. Okay,